YouTube family, and welcome back to my channel. This is Tina from Mama of 2+5, and I'd like to start this video out by saying a huge, great big thank you to Amber at Yellow Tuesdays for my hair. It looks amazing, and I'm so glad that I don't have to constantly be pulling it up because it just is a frizzy mess. So thanks, Amber. Love ya. Mwah. Now, we are going to do a DIY today, and the DIY that I am going to do today is a St. Patrick's Day wreath because I was shocked to find I didn't have as much stuff as I thought I did. So we're going to do a wreath, and then I'm hoping maybe even to work a centerpiece in yet before I am done with my DIYs for St. Patrick's Day. I know they're coming awful close, but it is what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by going over my materials. So give me just a minute so I can get everything all ready to go, and I will go over what we're going to use today. So we'll be right back. Now, the materials that I'm going to use is a wire wreath form. This is a 12-inch diameter wreath form that came from Dollar General, and if I'm not mistaken, it was $1.99 there. I'm going to be using this little piece that came from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to disassemble it and use it in the wreath here. I'm also using my rotary cutter. You'll need a pair of scissors as well. Wire snips would help. Can't find mine, so I'm just going to use scissors. Instead of mesh, I'm going to use tule because I could not find any green mesh, but I found tons of tule, so we're going to try this with tule. Our chenille and tinsel stems, and I have 3 different types of ribbon. The first one is from Hobby Lobby, and it's $4.99, but right now everything is, I think it's 40% off, but for the St. Patrick's Day. So this is the it's 1.5 inches, and it is a wire rim. And then I have this one here. It has shamrocks, golden shamrocks, and this is 7/8 inches ribbon, and this one was $3.99 from Hobby Lobby. And then I have this really cute shamrock, thin, much thinner. It's 3/8 inch ribbon for $1.99. That was also from Hobby Lobby. So these items right here were on sale this week at 40% off. So we're going to use those. And then I also have my trusty cutting mat. And so I'm going to explain to you what I'm doing and get things started. So let me go ahead and get everything set up, and we'll get rolling. Now, for the rest of this video, I'm going to keep the camera tilted down so you can see my work area a little bit better. But because I'm using tule, and tule is so thin, what I think I might do is take the tule and run it a couple of layers thick. For example, I want these to be, because of the size of the tule is 6 inches. So I want to do these by 6 inch by 6 inch. So they're squares. So what I'm thinking I might do is 3 of those is 18 inches. So what I think I might end up doing is taking this and cutting it, and taking my finger here, sliding that off, putting it at the 16-inch mark, and cutting this. Or I could just make it easier on myself and line it up, cut it at 6. Oops, help if I release the blade there. Let's see what I think works better. Let's go ahead and start by cutting it at the 18 like I was talking originally, and see how complicated that becomes. There's 17, so we need 1 more inch. Go right here. Try cutting it right here. And if you don't have a rotary tool, just grab your scissors, they'll work too. I just like how much cleaner it is when I use my rotary tool versus my scissors. So let's see what happens here. So we've got hopefully about 18 inches. So I'm gonna go, here's 6 inch, and then roll this end in, that's 6 inch. Let's see what happens when we, this here. It's not too bad, and I think once we get enough of them on there, it might actually turn out pretty decent. So I think that might be the route we go, is cutting these at 18 inches. Okay. And then I'm gonna cut, I will have to let you know here at the end how many exactly I cut, because I am not a measurer, and in my craft projects I have never laid down measurements and gone about it that way, and so I'm not sure how many I'm gonna need, and with it being tulle, that kind of puts a bit of a cramper in it as well. So we'll kind of play it by ear, and then I'm just going to continue to cut probably pretty much an entire roll of this tulle is what I'm thinking, because it is just so thin. So we're gonna go ahead and keep cutting here. So again, slide over by an inch, come down here and cut on my 17-inch mark, and there we go. It's actually kind of hard to see too with it being the tulle. So I think if you have access to the mesh, that you'd probably be a whole lot better off than I am. But this is what I have, and so it's what I'm going to use, because this was not a planned project by any means, and a couple of stores I stopped at did not have any green deco mesh, and so I thought, well, we'll give this a shot and see what happens. All right, guys, I'm going to continue cutting this, and when I'm all done, I will bring you back, but let's see what happens here next. So we'll be right back with you guys. Okay, so I think I have enough of the tulle cut. So now, when I went out to look again for my wire snips, I found that I had this tube mesh, and I decided I might go ahead and use some of this in with this as well. So I'm going to start out by cutting my ribbon, and then I'll worry about the tube mesh. But because I cut my tulle to be 6-inch squares, I want to cut my ribbon to be 8-inch. So that is exactly then what I am going to do. So I'm going to cut my ribbon pieces at 8 inches and go from there. So I'll lay it out, take my rotary cutter and 8, and keep going. And again at the 8 mark, and 8, again at the 8 mark. And to keep this going, I could do 8 and then cut again here at 16, and there's 2 at one time. So we're going to cut again at 16 and cut again at 8. Oh. And it didn't go through. There we go. The shamrocks that are on here are kind of raised a bit, and that makes it a little harder to cut. 1 inch short. Oh well, we'll stick that over here. So I'm going to keep going, cut all my ribbon, and when I get it all cut, I'll bring you back and we'll talk more then. So give me just a few minutes. Okay, so now I have all of the ribbon cut, so it's ready to go with the exception. Now I have to go through and dovetail all the ribbon. So I'm going to fold it in half, go from the open corner and cut towards the closed end, and it'll make a dovetail. So I'm going to dovetail all these ribbons so that they don't fray and they look better in the wreath. So I'm going to again pinch it in half, go from the outside corner to the inside fold at an angle, and it'll make the dovetail. Flip it and do it on this end. Again, dove, and there it is. So now I have to dovetail all of these, so I'll get that done here quickly, and then I'll come back and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, I've gone and cut all of my ribbon, dovetailed it. I was able to dovetail these, but when I got to this, I just couldn't get my fingers to fold it, so I just cut these at a slight angle just so that they look finished. And I think that's kind of the goal anyway, is just to make sure that they look finished. Now these tubes, because I want them to look loopy like they do in here, the way I was shown to cut these so that they give that, that loop appeal, is that I want them to be 8 inches, just like my ribbons are. So what's going to happen then, I'm going to take 8 inches and I'm going to double that, so that's 16. But I'm also going to need a couple of inches of overlap. So I'm going to have to cut these at 18 inches, just like I did my tule. So what I'm going to do is find the 2, slide it down, and cut it at the 16. So I'll work on that. Let me show you. Sorry, I'm going to show you one before I kick you out of here. Sorry. So here, slide it down, find the 16. It just feels like I'm pulling it, and it's so stringy already. Here, slide that, and then there you go though, and then come back here to the 16. Oops, help again if I take my blade cover off, and cut it at that 16 mark, and then I'll just start a separate pile for those. So I'm gonna go ahead and do one more so you can see what I'm doing here again. So I find the 2-inch mark, slide it, find the 16, hold it down, bring in my rotary cutter, and oh, I forgot to put my scissors on them, and cut. So that I'll end up with 16-inch pieces. Now, I've also seen people, what they'll do is they will, 18-inch pieces. They'll do something like this, where they go to 16, and then they'll measure off like so. So whatever works for you and yours, that's what I say, make that work. So let's see here if I can find that again here. Take this piece, bend it. And then what you do then is you come through and you're going to cut here on the fold, cut here on the fold, follow this down, and I'm going to cut, let me set my rotary cutter here, cut here, okay, and then come in here and cut here, and then that way you can cut several pieces at one time. So it's up to you on how you prefer to work with that. It is your call, but that's just another way to handle it. And I think it'd be a whole lot easier if you didn't have the rotary cutter and had to use your scissors to do it that way. And you can cut multiples. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my tubing, and then I'll come back and we'll move on to the next step. At this point, I'm going to have to do a little bit of voiceover. I'm not sure what happened to the volume or the voicing on my video. But at this point, what I was doing is I was laying out the pieces of tulle, and I was measuring them to 6 inches and then folding them into thirds. Once I had it folded into thirds, I then took the square and crunched it up, and then I would take my clothespin to hold the piece of tulle that I had made into the little butterfly piece. Now, in each of the sets, I was taking different portions, like I might have 2 pieces of the tulle folded into thirds, or 1 piece, but I think the smallest number I went with was 2 sections of the tulle folded up and gathered. And then I did, and then I would clip it also to the clothespin. Now once I had both of those pieces, then I got it started with gathering up the 3 pieces of ribbon. And what I did is I would always start with the thicker, then go the medium, and then go the thinnest. So I would have my 3 pieces, and then what I did is I would gather them also in the middle. And once I had those gathered in the middle and I had the tulle gathered in the middle, I would put those together, and then I was taking a chenille stem and we're connecting those together. Now at first I started out clipping my chenille stems in half and using half, but then I found by using half that they were almost not the right size, but the half worked better than using a whole chenille stem. But I would put them all together then and twist to knot up that chenille stem to hold the pieces together. Now after I did one with ribbon, then I took 2 more pieces of the tulle and folded those in 6-inch sections, and then I would take and gather them up. And then here I would turn and scrunch to make the little, almost like a butterfly wing type of a piece. So here I've got the butterfly wing piece, and I'm going to clip it again to my clothespin so that I can have both hands get a second piece of the tulle and fold the tulle over into the 3 parts, the 6-inch sections, into 3 sections. Once I have my 3 sections, I would turn it and I would gather it up again into what I call the butterfly wings. And then I would attach it again to my clothespin. Now once I had it attached to my clothespin, I grabbed a piece of the tubing. Now with the tubing I needed, I wanted to fold it in half, but I also needed pieces to overlap to connect when I was connecting to make the like bow or ribbon piece. So then once I had that done, I would put it with the tulle, grab my piece of chenille stem and feed it through, and then disconnect my clothespin, and then I was twisting it to hold it shut. And then I found that it did not work at all trying to attach my chenille stem while it was still on. So I did have to take it off my clothespin before I could attach my chenille stem. So once I had one with ribbon, one with tubing, then I decided to do a chenille, just strictly, not a chenille, I'm sorry, the tulle, just 3 pieces of the tulle. So I was folding it again into thirds, bunching it in the middle, and attaching it to the clothespin. So there's the first one. Then I did a second, and again laying it out so that I could fold it into thirds, excuse me. 6 inches, 6 inches, lining it up, turning it, and pulling it, crunching it, and catching it in the center and attaching it to the clothespin. And here comes the third. Again, 6 inches. Fold over to the other 6 inches and turn it and gathering it. Just like you would do a deco mesh. The only difference is this is tulle rather than the mesh. Now that I have all 3 pieces, now I'm also going to use a chenille stem to pull these together and twist the chenille stem, and then I just have the plain poof. That's the third set. And again, 6 inches, 6 inches, turn, and scrunch. Gather it in the center and attach it to the clothespin. And again, 6 inches, 6 inches. Once I have my 6-inch square, I'm going to turn it and gather. Gather it in the middle, pinch, and attach it to the clothespin. And this one here's the first one, so this one's going to require the ribbon. So I'm going to take the thick ribbon, then the medium ribbon, and finally the small ribbon. Gather it in the center. Get my chenille stem, cut it in half. It might have actually helped if I had done several of those at one time, so I had them ready to go. But pinch it in the center, gather my tulle as well, grab a half a piece of the chenille stem, pinch it in the center, and twist. And again, that's the ribbon. And I'll continue this until I have enough to complete the sections. So I need to put each of those 3 parts together. So I need the tulle with ribbon, tulle with the loop, and then after I have that, then I would have the tulle just by itself. Now, what I've done here is I'm starting to put the actual pieces on the ring. Excuse me. And when I do this, I'm using the center 2 pieces of that ring. And first I have to figure out which section what I need. But I'm putting the pipe cleaners on either side of those 2 center pieces of wire, and once you put that on, then you push them together and you continue until you have your one section completed. If I'm not mistaken, it took me 9 pieces to complete that one section that's done there. So I put it in the same order that I was making it, where it went ribbon, loop, just plain chenille. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you how I was attaching. So this one here that I needed was just plain chenille, so I'm going to flip my ring over, come up from the bottom, put my pipe cleaners, one on each side of those middle 2 wires, and feed it up.
pull it closely to the end where I had stopped, and then twist the chenille stem around itself to give it just a little knot, and then slide it down. Then it's time for the next one. Now this one here, I needed the piece that had that loopy ribbon in it. So I'm gonna flip it back over here now that I've got it pushed down. Again, go in from underneath, feed the 2 chenille stems on either side of those wire pieces on the wreath form. Give it a twist to secure it, and then slide it down. Pushing it against the previous one. Now the next one I need is one that has the ribbon pieces with it. And again, we're going to go in from the bottom. And then going in from the bottom, feed the chenille stems through so that one's on either side of the middle 2 wires on the wreath. Give it a pull and pull it down towards the end. Give the 2 pieces of chenille stem a good twist and slide. Now this time we'll start with just a plain only tule, 3 pieces of the tule there, and again go in from the bottom, put a piece of put the chenille stems on either side of that middle piece and slide it down, and again give it a good twist. Now we're on the loopy, and again going to come in from the bottom on either side, pull it down close to the other pieces, feed it up through, give it a twist, and slide it down. Now we need the one with the straight up chenille, or I'm sorry, teal, or oh my goodness, sorry, the tule. And then again, put your chenille stems on either side of that middle, give it a nice twist, and slide it down. You should have one more set here to finish this off. Again, going with the loop piece, go in from the bottom, either side, excuse me, twist, and push and slide. Here we should have a one with a ribbon that'll go on next. And again, we're going to go in from the bottom, chenille stems on either side of that middle section of the wreath. Slide them up, slide them down, pull them up, and twist. Once they're secured, you want to slide it down. This will continue until you have enough, or 9 pieces is what I used in each section to finish that section. Now I'm flipping it over just to kind of fluff and see where things are. See how it's looking. And then I found I need another couple pieces yet. I'm not happy with the way it's looking compared to the other section. So again, coming in from the bottom, chenille stems on either side, pull them up, twist, and then we will slide down. And this will continue until the section is filled. Now, once I have all the pieces in, there's an extra chenille stem that we don't need, and I don't want scratching up the surface of where we're going to hang the wreath. So what I do is I twist it a little more, and then I clip the ends off, and then I take the ends that are left or remaining and flatten those out. And again, here I am clipping those ends on both sides, and then I go back in and I flatten those back out. And the reason behind that is so, like I said, it won't scratch the surface that you choose to put it on. Whether I chose not to use this as a wreath, if I used it as a centerpiece, I wouldn't want it to scratch the table. Or if it's hanging as a wreath on a door, you don't want it to scratch the door either. So that's why I'm clipping these all back. And then I'll continue until I have all of them done in that one section. And I do usually do these section by section. That way I don't forget about it. And I think that helps out quite a bit too. Now, once I'm sure I have all the pieces clipped, then what I'm going to do is take the wreath itself and flip it over, and I'm going to fluff the pieces and look to make sure that I'm happy with where the ribbons are placed and that the tule's not smashed from being flipped over, and give everything a look over and a fluff and prep, and make sure that everything is looking all nice and pretty and fluffed and looking poofy, I guess is the word that I'm going to use. So sometimes it requires adjusting where your ribbons are laying and working them in so that it actually looks a little more full with the ribbon, because it gets smashed pretty bad when you're flipping it around and you're pinching it in the chenille stems and things. So at this point it's just nice to be able to fluff it. And this is what it looks like with the two sections done so far. So starting to look nice and festive. And I'm really liking the way it looks with the tulle, even though I prefer mesh. This isn't looking too bad. Now at this point I'm going to get ready to do the next section, and I will probably go clear down to maybe the last section before I check back in, because it's just going to be the same thing over and over. But I'm going to go ahead and get started so I can finish up the wreath, and then I will check back in with you here in just a few. Now here's one last view. This is the final section, and I'm going ahead and putting in all of the pieces. Now there are 5 sections, and in the 6 sections, and in the 6 sections we use 9 pieces, or 9 clumps, we'll call it. And of those 9 clumps, there are 2 to 3 pieces of tulle. So there's 9 times 2, that's 18, and then the one that has 3, so that takes us to 18, 19, 20, 21 pieces in a section. So 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. 27 pieces in a section of tulle. So we got 27, and then there are the six sections there. So we have we're using 162 pieces of the tulle in this project. I will tell you, it did not take an entire roll. It was probably just right around half of a roll of tulle to complete this project. When I got the tulle for just a matter of a few dollars after Christmas sale, it made this actually pretty affordable compared to doing it with mesh. The biggest downside, like I said, with the tulle is that it does take a whole lot more to be able to fill in the wreath. So it kind of depends on your view and what you like as far as the filling in of the tulle too, I believe. So it makes it kind of hard to say how much I used, but like I said, it was less than half of the roll of tulle that I had pulled to use. So it did not even take like I was planning the full roll of tulle. So here we are putting in the last couple of pieces in that last section, and then once I get them all put in, I will need to clip them and pat them down so that they're ready to go. So let's finish up this section here. Now, I have this piece that I got, this little door hanger type thing I got from Dollar Tree, and right now I am tearing the ribbon off of the back of it so that I can have the individual shamrocks to use in the wreath. So there's 3 shamrocks total, or 4 shamrocks total plus the hat. And now I'm going to prepare the pieces for putting them into the being able to put them into the wreath. And the way that we have to do that is we're going to take some hot glue and a chenille stem and secure that really well to the back of these pieces. I'm not worried about the stickers, those don't need to come off, or any of that, but I want to hot glue, put a dab of hot glue, then put the chenille stem in that dab of hot glue, and then cover the chenille stem with more hot glue so that it's good and secure, so that when we attach it to the wreath that it doesn't pull away. And so what we're doing here then is I'll do that to all of the shamrocks, and then also to the hat. And like I said, I'm not really concerned about the sticker on the back of the hat. So we're just gonna put a dollop of the hot glue, set the chenille stem down in that, and then put a pretty good glop of hot glue on top of that chenille stem as well to hold it into place so that we won't lose it when we try to attach it to the wreath form. Now, to attach these pieces, what we're going to do is find the spot we want it on the front of the wreath. Then we're going to work the chenille stems between the clumps that we already have there. Bring it also up through those center 2 pieces where we attached all of our clumps or poofs, and then twist it on real good. And then what I like to do is take what's remaining after I've twisted it and wrap it around those outer 2 edges to help hold it securely in that one spot so that it doesn't walk around the wreath and wander from the area that I actually want to have this particular piece positioned. And then if there's any leftover pieces at that point, I will clip off those little pieces of the extra chenille stem then and pat it down just like we did each of the poof clumps when we were working with those. Now, once we have it positioned where we want it, we'll flip the wreath back over and make sure that it's attached and that we're happy with the position that it's on as it is attached to the wreath. So we'll continue this until we get all of the shamrocks put onto the wreath, and we'll go from there. Now, once we have all the shamrocks on, of course, we're going to use the hat. With the hat, I did remove the piece of ribbon at the top. I wasn't too concerned about the little hole that was up there. I know some people will fill those in, but I wasn't concerned about that. The hat we will attach the same way, just I wanted it at the top, and I did want it to stick up a little bit higher. So instead of completely attaching that piece at the bottom, I went ahead and attached it at the top of the wreath. So when I flip it over, instead of coming up through the middle, I'm going through the middle, and then I'm also going around that top ring. So I'm using the top two pieces of the ring here instead of the middle two. But same way I'm attaching it. I'm twisting, pulling it through, twisting. After I've twisted, I'm going to wrap it around these two rings, the outside two rings, to help hold it into place, and then I will clamp it off, clip it off so that it doesn't scratch up anything, and press those down. And I'll continue that until I have it securely attached. Now, after the last piece has finally been secured, then I flip the wreath back over, and I will fluff the wreath to give it the final go over, and adjust my ribbons one last time to make everything fit the way I think it should, and voila, our wreath is done.
Well, here it is, completed and up on my hook on the door, showing my St. Patrick's Day spirit there. Took a little more work than I expected, but using the tool, because you had to fold it in thirds, and that took quite a bit of extra time, but it turned out really good. I'm pretty impressed for not being able to find the mesh and just using tool. So, and I did use a smaller ring, so it didn't take as long as I thought it would, but it took long enough. So there it is. That is the St. Patrick's Day wreath. And if you'd like to see some more DIYs, whether it's St. Patrick's Day or spring, stop back at our channel, hit the thumbs up if you liked it, and let us know you'd like to see more of these. If you have questions, comments, you can put it in the bottom in the comment section. But we'll see you on the next video. Bye.